Hi. Today we are going to be working on measurement division. So first I'm going to start off with a few definitions. And the first definition is measurement division, and that's when you distribute some groups of stuff among an unknown number of groups so that each group gets a known amount of stuff and count how many groups you can make. So then the next definition is whole, because these are numbers or definitions you'll be hearing a lot in the problem. Whole is the amount of stuff you would have if you had one instead of a fraction. Second was denominator, and that's always the number that's on the bottom. So in this case, we're going to be doing 2/5 divided by 7/3, so it would be 5 and 3. And that is the number of equal pieces the whole is cut into. And then the numerator, which is the top, which in this case will be 2 and 7, is the number of those pieces that we have. So today we are going to be dividing 2/5 divided by 7/3. Okay, so that's like saying we have 2/5 of a cookie, and I want to give 7/3 of that cookie to my friends, and I want to see how many of my friends can get 7/3. Okay, so today, like I said, we're doing 2/5 divided by 7/3, and so here we have our picture cut up. We have our cookie there in squares. And this represents the 2/5 because we have a whole, right? And the denominator, like we talked about, which is 5, is what the the cookies cut into. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we took 2 of those, like the numerator says. Just like the second one says, our whole is going to be cut into 3, right? The denominator. But we have 7 of those, so we have one, so we have to draw 3 cookies. Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 of those 3, but it's cut into 3, and we have 7 of them. So now our first step to do when we have a problem like this is to find a common denominator. So what we do is we need to multiply the denominators together, right? So I would do this one times 3. This 1 times 5 times 3 and 3 times 5. However, whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top, so I'll multiply the 7 by the 5 as well, and then the 3 by the 2 as well. So that gives us 2 times 3 over 5 times 3 divided by 7 times 5 times 3. So now we know that 5 times 3 is 15. So that is going to be our new denominator, right? So we'll look back here at the picture, and we have 2/5 again, right? And to get the common denominator, we multiplied both of those by 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the cookie, and I'm going to cut it into 3 more parts. And now we have 15. Like we did with the 7/3, we multiplied the denominator 3 by 5 to get us a common denominator of 15. So like how I cut the top 2/5 into thirds because we multiplied it by 3, I'm going to cut these into fifths 5 more times because I multiplied it by 5. Okay. 1, 2, 5. Okay, so now we have the common denominator. Okay, so we can just forget about that because we already drew it out. So now I'm going to rewrite this problem because that is pretty much saying that I have 2 times 3 over 7 times 5, right? So now we just turned it into an integer problem. So that is also, if I rewrite that, like me saying that's also like me saying 2 over 5 times 3 over 7, right? So now if we look back at our integer, or at our original problem, we had 2/5 divided by 7 times 3. So now what we have here is we have the inverse of the second fraction. So we know that when we see a fraction number, all we have to do is we just need to inverse and then we multiply. So then we just multiply across. and that gets us 6 over 35. And that would be our answer, right? So now we'll draw that out in pictures, okay? So we had, like I said, we had 7/3 of, we're trying to figure out how many. We had 7/3. Okay, and I need to cut that into the pieces, right? So I need to break this into 5 pieces because our common denominator is 15. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what we noticed is we had 2 of those chunks of the third. So that is 6 pieces, right? Because we had these 2 top chunks. The drawing doesn't accurately show that. But we had 2 rows, right? 2 rows of the third, and we filled that in, right? So we have 6. We should have 6 pieces colored in. And then the rest is we had total, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We had 15 here, 30, and then we had 5 more pieces here, so that is 35. So that shows us how we can do, we would be able to give 7/3 of a cookie to 6/35 of our friends. And so that also shows us that rather than going through this whole process of finding a common denominator, we can just always, when dividing fractions, we can just inverse and multiply, because what we did right here was the same thing as just inverting it.